I have two cats, and they will suddenly appear. The little one, the girl, she flits all around because she's doing like exercises through the house. So she'll suddenly like dart past me, and I remember I'm not seeing demons. It's just my cat.
Oh my God. I'm not seeing demons. Why is that an option? Oh, okay. It's not demons this time. What? Like, what goes on here? Oh, last time with the whole demon thing. Oh, yeah. As you do, as it happens.
I told you about Wednesday before last,
Oh my God. Welcome to Rappin Atlanta. I'm Nita Sharice.
And I'm Nikki.
And in this podcast, we have a frank, honest, and open conversation about the FX show Atlanta.
We have noticed that there are similar features in each show, and during our discussion, we offer our impressions on what those features are. There's a That's So Atlanta moment in each episode that most clearly and accurately depicts the spirit or quirk that is Atlanta and life in the American South.
Dariusisms highlight the special flavor the character Darius brings to the show because he is easily one of the most layered, complex, and compelling characters on television.
There always seems to be a mystical element or some strange thing that happens beyond all logical reason and sometimes scientific explanation. We've all experienced those kinds of moments.
And finally, the SGR moment is very plainly the moment in each show when shit got real and we are reminded that life is not a game and desperation has the power to motivate any and every possible action.
Today we're reviewing Season 3, Episode 7, Trini to the Bone, directed by Donald Glover and written by Donald Glover and Jordan Temple. When a Black nanny dies, the white family whose son she cared for is exposed to her island culture.
Is right. What'd you think of this episode?
Again, like this season is the best. It's the best. It is. I'm so delighted, and I'm just so I'm so impressed with the boldness. And it couldn't have happened at a better time when we desperately need to be having these conversations in light of what Governor Kemp here in Georgia just signed this bill to limit discussions on race in the classroom. So I was thinking about that, as I was watching this, like the second or third time I watched it, I was just like, yeah, I'm glad, television like this is now available and there's more of an opportunity to get these messages in entertainment, because otherwise ain't nobody
they're not gonna hear it.
Yeah, they're not gonna hear it.
They're on it. Like they're doing awesome work.
Yeah, they're doing awesome work. So okay, do we open at the top of the episode, the dude is jogging through the city, New York. Was that source music? Do you think he was actually listening to the music that the audience was hearing?
I think he was, just because like the first time I wasn't sure. But the second time I think he was, because they did the thing where like when he gets into his little apartment, it fades out just as he's taking out his earbuds.
Okay, so it is source music. All right.
Yeah. And it was the most niggery bitch music.
Yeah, which, you know what? That shit is true. I remember when I used to work for that stock brokerage firm in LA.
I knew you were gonna say that. Because that's what they look like.
Well, yeah, he looked like that guy, but also they all listened to like really hardcore, like Scary X and shit, and just really things where I was just like, oh no, that's too violent for me. They're listening to it hardcore, like quoting it, walking into the office to make these $1 million sales. But yeah, he gets home, he notices that his kid is still there, right? The kid is just chilling, watching something on his little tablet. And he's just like, the fuck?
Right. I feel like we just communicated without speaking.
Yeah.
And I'm going to wager to guess that maybe you were thinking something along the lines of, why are they relating to their kids like they just walked in on a stranger sitting in their home?
Or like, what is this disruption? Like this.
I was like, did this child die 10 years ago?
Yeah.
Did they bury this child? Why are they like, I told it not to come back?
They were so completely uncomfortable with parenting their own child. It was so evident and very well acted too, because then she comes in and he was like, well, has he eaten? Like it's a pet. Like he's a
almost
pet.
said it.
Yeah. And she's like, well, I ordered us both some coffee. She leads with what she did for them first. And then like, you know, what was her name? Bronwyn or some weird thing?
Fucking name was Bronwyn. I was like, hats off, writers. You found the name to piss me off almost as much as that blonde woman did last week. The one from Metairie.
What was the dad's name?
They never said it. And if they did, people out there, don't at me. You know, speaking it into existence, that we have thousands of followers that are going to at me. I didn't see anything come up in captions, because I purposely will put, because captions will tell you before the actual like script does. Nothing ever came up for him, so I'm gonna assume that he is Sebastian Senior.
And again,
her fucking name was Bronwyn, and of course it was.
Yeah, and of course his name was Sebastian.
Yeah.
Now,
or Bash.
Now, folks, if you're not a regular Rappin Atlanta viewer, if you're new, welcome.
You're about to be.
Welcome. So YouTube subscribers, we are loving you. Keep the comments coming. It was what's the one name? There's a Mr. Glover who's a commenter on YouTube. There's also what's her name? Rose.
Yes.
Lovely commentary, folks, and of course our folks, the ambiguously brown couple. Love y'all. We see you out there.
I love that name.
Anyway, where was I? Ooh, tangent.
You were getting ready to talk about what I think may be our prophetic cold opens.
Yes. So in a previous episode, we talked about the name Sebastian. We mentioned it. And then lo and behold, there's a character in this show, a prominent character named Sebastian. All I'm saying is we connected.
So we be connecting y'all.
We be connecting y'all to the connections that should be connected with.
But not just Sebastian. There was another name. Was that in the episode, or was that just us talking?
We haven't gotten to that point. Later on, when we get to the Trinidad
Revelations, child.
Yes, Revelations. So anyhow, the little boy's name was Sebastian. He hadn't eaten what his mother had gotten for him because it was too bland. He said it.
He said it was too bland. And when he said that, I was like, oh, something's amiss.
Yeah.
And then I remembered the preview. And then I was like, oh, they're not used to taking care of him. Oh, okay, I see.
Yeah, they don't know their own child. So anyway, he's into, what is it? What was it? Mango curry?
Spicy curry? Mango curry or spicy curry mango?
The little boy eats it. He's fine. His breakfast is made well. The man takes a bite out of it. He's like, what? How is this less spicy? Yeah.
He was willing though. He's like, throughout the episode, he at least exhibits like a willingness to like try to see something. Like throughout the episode, his demeanor seems to be, I'm trying to see something. Like at least. Yeah. Don't you think? Kinda.
He's a liberal.
I guess like, yeah, he is. So he's probably the worst.
Liberal. She does yoga. She was upset that she missed yoga.
I'm not talking about her. I ain't talking about her. I'm talking about him. I realize that he's a white man, but she irritated me from the. I have less patience for her.
We have to talk.
I'm not saying I'm not going to discuss her in this episode. I'm talking about when I said that I'm trying to see something spirit. I'm attributing it.
She did not have it. She did not have it. Honestly, like, okay, when they find out that Sybil dies, the first thing I thought of was that book that you recommended to me, Such a Fun Age. And
I saw your face. We can't get off into that. We are so short on time right now. We're only into the first 45 seconds of this episode.
Let me just make a note. I will post to the book in the links, Such a Fun Age. But their primary concern, like when they found out she died, they didn't say anything about her personality, any conversations they had with her, how she made them feel, or anything like that. It was strictly an employer-employee relationship. You know, they talked about all the items she left around the house, you know, her wigs. But that was it. Never said anything about her. And like, it seemed to me as the woman took her own child to school and had to learn, you know, the proper way to drop him off or whatever, but they're not engaged in their child's life at all. They didn't even show up for family fucking picture day.
That made me angry. How do you not do that? You don't want to be in the picture with him? That cute little boy?
How can you be too busy not to, like, you put that shit aside? You're making enough money. You're making enough money to the point where you can afford a nanny. And what I guess
you live in New York and your apartment has more than one room. You make a lot of money.
Exactly. They're right downtown in the thick of things. And I'm just like, you could, but you can't make time for a picture day at your son's school, you know? And this boy obviously knew who loved him. This woman was giving him all her attention, you know?
Which proved to be a problem, as we'll see later on.
Well, what happens next after she drops him off at school and they do the ocean breath? That made me upset.
Yeah, because he was taking care of her.
Yes, he was taking care of her. Like, who's the adult? Who's the parent?
And then she's like, oh, and it didn't have the effect that I was hoping it would have. I was hoping that she would get a little bit redeemed, because honestly, if we're honest, and I'm talking to parents out there, mainly mothers, you're not perfect, and you want to always feel like you're taking care of your children. But there are those moments sometimes when your children, because you're raising them to be empathetic people, will see something in you sometimes, and they will turn it around on you in a good way, and then say like, "Oh," and they'll kind of like, and that it'll make you like, "Oh, baby," and you might have that little twinge of like, "Oh my God, I'm supposed to be taking care of you." But then sometimes you can say, "Well, you know what? They're doing what I've taught them, so that's so sweet." And that didn't happen. I mean, she took advantage of it. It was like, "Oh," but like you didn't see it like where she's, "Oh, I'm raising a sweet child," because she's not raising a sweet child. She's not raising a child.
No, she's not raising the child at all.
Like this little boy is her roommate.
Yeah,
barely.
The nanny,
like the adults, like they have their life.
Yeah,
and then there's this kid.
From the child is an accessory. The child is like, you know, like a rite of passage.
Right. It's like, oh, it's a thing I did.
You know, yep. That's what you're supposed to do.
That's exactly right.
Anyhow, they can't figure out how to tell them, so they don't tell them. And I guess I'll ask this question, because when is the right time to tell your child that a person has died? Because I know when our cat died, I said right away what happened, because they were looking for the cat. You know, they came over from their dad's house. They were looking for the cat. The cat wasn't there. So I told them, you know, I showed them where I buried the cat. And, you know, I explained to them what happened. But like when a person dies, like how soon should you tell a child that age?
I think it's when they notice. Like your kids were looking for the cat.
Yeah.
They know the cat is important. They're asking. You have to tell them then, because your only alternative is you're lying, and you only lie if there's something that's more important happening. Like they're already super upset about something else. something else is going on and you don't want to add, but you know that, okay, very soon I'm going to tell them about this. Like if your kid like just hurt themselves or like just fell down or somebody just stole their bike, well, you're going to deal with that. You're not going to be like, and guess what?
Hey, while we're talking bad news,
might as well pile on. Let me get you ready for life, kid.
Yeah.
Also, guess what? You're Black.
Died, yeah. And you're Black.
Guess what? We also live in America. Yay. Like,
also, let's have the police talk right now.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that if it is a big part, if it's a person, it's a big part of your child's life, which if they're asking at that age, when they're egocentric, if they're like, hey, where's such and such, that person has made enough of an impression that your child knows that that's not them because that's all they care about.
Yeah, they're pretty self-centered.
You need to tell them immediately because, you know, they have to know. Because what was the first thing he said? He said something like, okay, well, like when she's done such and such, then can she come? Because they don't get it right away. It's like, oh no, I need to tell you because, you know. But now I'm thinking about his question. What was it that he said? He asked the question in a way like, the dad said something like, no, she had to go do such and such. And he's like, well, when she's done with that, then can she come back? And the dad said no. But then thinking about the episode later, I'm wondering like, well, the kid may have been kind of right. Maybe he knew something that we didn't know.
Yeah, maybe he didn't know. I thought about that initially because I'm just like, you know, we
like with different types of lore. Yeah.
Like I love the mystical elements, the magical realism in this show, because it is also very much a part of the Black experience. You know,
that's just hitting me. Like, I wonder if the boy was very well aware of like, no, yeah, she died. But like when she gets finished saying goodbye, like because we learn now that he's very much steeped in the culture.
He went to church with that woman. So
yeah, because he was sitting there going, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
Amen. Yeah.
I was like,
he raised his hand. I'm just like, this child is Black. This is a Black child. When they sit him down and they tell him about death, they start off talking about the dinosaurs going extinct. But then when he asks, well, like, is that going to happen to me? They said, no, baby, it can happen to you though. Like, they were not honest with this kid at all. They kind of just, and it wasn't for his benefit, it was for theirs, because they were uncomfortable talking about it. You know, then there was a problem. By the time we get to the daughter, was her name
oh shoot,
Khadijah? Was it Khadijah?
Yes, it was Khadijah.
Okay. By the time they meet Khadijah outside of where the funeral is held, which was also funny, like the parking situation just cracked me up.
Yes, with that little boy. To be fair, I would have been like, no.
Leave the keys on the hood. Like, what?
Oh, that little boy ain't paying attention to nothing. He has headphones on.
Looking down.
You're in your phone and headphones? No.
Yeah.
And I am fully Black. No.
Yeah. But when he knows that phrase, and I included the phrase in my show notes, because cockroach have no right in foul party. Yeah. Now I got that even before he said it. It's like, yeah, because that cockroach is food. It's gonna get eaten up, you know. But
I didn't appreciate that shit at all.
Yeah. They didn't get it. He knew what it meant, and that's why she said, you probably know what it means too.
Yeah. I really liked that daughter. She was like, you know, like I liked her because I saw, well, first of all, she's just familiar as hell. And also I saw what she was doing because I've done it. Not just from the racial aspect, but just from that aspect of like, when you are engaging with people that you don't know, but like you have someone in common, but like you don't know them. And so you sort of have to make them feel comfortable, and like you have to like force this familiarity that you don't really have. Yeah. But for her, like then it's like this extra racial thing. Like she had to be not scary to them. And it was just, that actress just did a really, really good job. All of the acting, the white folks too, like it was really good. Because I had to remind myself that those people were acting. But then I had that suspicion that I always have when it's white actors, like, oh yeah, they're actors. But I'm always like, they probably really like that though, because they're white. So then I'm just like mad. I'm like, you doing too good of a job. Like I almost want the white people to be kind of not great actors, because I'm gonna be mad at them either way. So it's like they can't win with me. And I feel like that's my form of reparations. But anyway, continue.
It's what it is. Yeah, I understand completely what you were saying, but she also did that. And I'm sure she was the person they talked to on the phone because she said so. But then back in the house, he was like, I could barely understand her. What?
Yeah, really? It's just very easy to understand. You just already have the, oh God, this is going to be like a crazy exotic experience.
This dude, he just wasn't listening. You can understand what the fuck she was saying. The little boy, I love that she code switched with the little boy, and the little boy also broke into the accent. He code switched with him because the child is Black. But then even going back to them explaining or trying to explain death, the reason why they ended up talking about it is because he was like, y'all are real old. Because they were trying to explain, it's like, oh, you know, sometimes when you're really, really sick and everything, and you don't wake up. And like, oh, is that going to happen to me? No, it only happens to really old people. And I was like, and he's like, so is it going to happen to you? And they were offended. They were offended. So that's why his dad's like, Sylvia's dead. And it's like, really? your ego is so fragile that a kid asking you logical, reasonable questions somehow hurts your feelings because it's about you.
But then that also shows how little they interact with him. Because to talk to a kid that age regularly, you're usually biting your tongue, or like, shit, kids are honest. Like, you must not ever talk to him because kids are constantly gonna hurt your feelings. Yeah. You talk to them a lot. And you start to know like they're not trying to do it. Also, you're like, okay, I need to, like, come on. Like, if you're getting your feelings hurt all the time, like it should like humble you and also like knock you upside the head. Like, all right, come on.
Yeah, like it's a child.
Right. Meaning like by this age, like you should have gotten used to this 4 years ago with this child, and your skin should be tougher. And you also should have like, you know, matured from this by now. It's like they must rarely talk to him. So this woman, she obviously, it seems like she must have kind of lived there or was there a lot at least, like to have so many things there. And so they probably never even had or barely had to engage with her. Like they were already thinking of like, you know, like her replacement. Like there was no mourning.
So I was curious about like what nannies make, because you know he makes that comment. She wasn't
expensive,
but she wasn't cheap.
Yeah.
You know, and they're talking about finding an Asian nanny, how rare that is. So, okay. So I looked up some statistics on nannies because that's what I do. Most nannies are white women, by and large, make up the majority, followed by Hispanic and Latino. Then Black or African American are about 7.9%, and Asians are about the same. But Black or African American nannies have the highest average salary compared to other ethnicities. Asian nannies have the lowest average salary at $39,099. Let's see, what's the average salary? Average male salary is $40,101. Average female salary is $39,049. So about $40,000.
Huh.
And I mean, she's working hard, sending money back to Trinidad and Tobago to support family, like a lot of immigrants do, you know, funding people over there after pursuing a dance. Well, we don't find that out until later, but after dancing with Alvin Ailey,
I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
And then that made me sad. Like, now you were.
And it reminds me of the conversation we've been having about performers who it's like you help to usher in a new age of culture, like, you know, the art that you contributed to us and the world at large, and you die as somebody's nanny, you know. Not that it's not an honorable profession, it is, but like, goodness, yeah. So many flowers she have. And then the things that she did, you know, with education, you know, with school. Didn't she start that dancers group?
Yeah, like she continued to be an ambassador, yeah, of her art, of the art of dance. Yeah. You saying that about the way that she died. This is a plug for another book that I'm currently listening to. You may have heard of it because it just came out. Shine Bright. Okay. Have you heard of that? The author, I think that you'd be interested in it. I keep forgetting the woman's last name, but I know you've heard of this woman. Her name is Danyel. Danyel or Danyel. She's the woman who was like the first female editor of either Vibe or Source. I know you've heard of this woman. Like, we all know her. And she's from the Bay Area. Was she in Ebony, the editor of Ebony? What's her name? Danyel Smith. Yeah. Okay. I'm listening to her book now. She came up in Oakland. And it's her memoir, but the way she tells it is like through the stories of all these Black women who contributed to pop music that we know about. It isn't like they're not famous. So she's not saying like nobody ever knew them, but they are not put on the level as a lot of their white counterparts. They're not truly put on the level and given the accolades that they should be given for, like, literally, it's what we always talk about, but like she really goes in, like really shaping pop music and just like the way that things are done, like literally like the anatomy of a song, like how you just are, like Diana Ross and the Supremes. Of course we know them, but like even them, like just they get a lot of shine, but just really going into like the Black girl singer. Yeah. And I'm not doing it any justice, but like she goes into people that we know about, but there's just not enough in depth of like every single frame of their life like we get with like a Madonna or somebody, like where you know their story like lore. Is it on Audible? I'm listening to it on Audible now. Shine Bright, and she has a podcast. I think it's of the same name. Guy he turns to them. Well, he says, "You must be the," and I forget their names. I forget their last names. But he's like, you must be the, I don't know, like Howard's. And they're like, yes. And then he pretty much, I think, starts like jockeying to replace her. And he says, "I'm a compere." And he was like, he starts like touting his other talents and then says that he can be a connector for them for childcare. And then somebody else comes in and scolds him and is like, have you no shame, pretty much, like she just died. They said, know your place. Yeah. Know your place. But he's pretty much like, hey, I can. At first, I figured he was saying I could hook you up. No, he was like, I can connect you. But then I was like, oh, no, he must be like pitching himself. And I was like, some people are not going to let you in their house taking care of that little boy. But he can't see them letting a man. He installs windows. Yeah, he mentioned like a couple of just random things that he does, but then it sounded like he said something about connecting them to childcare or being a connector. He was a little league coach as well. I think he was. It was a bunch of random things. He reminded me of like, I have a barbecue joint where you can also cash your checks and get your car painted. It was like one of those places. And you smoke hookah and you get your nails done. And they were like, okay. And then somebody kind of broke in, like, leave those people alone. And he was just, but a compare, I forgot to look that up. But I really think he was just saying I'm comparable to what she was. Yes, he did not know his place. Well, after that, the white guy next to them starts to chat them up. And I did notice that they looked like they looked, in my opinion, visibly more comfortable. Like, oh, someone who, he's not like us, but he looks like us. Like they looked visibly more relaxed, in my opinion. And I thought he was Tom Hanks' son because he looks like Tom Hanks' son. Okay, have you heard like any of the foolishness surrounding this coon
Wait a
ass
minute.
mother?
You talking about Colin Hanks?
The one who is always speaking in a Jamaican accent, who thinks he's black. Have you heard anything about this fool?
I didn't know.
I'm surprised that Tom Hanks has not had him murdered by now, because I know he's
Hanks?
not Colin Hanks. He's the embarrassment Hanks.
So is Chet the heavily tattooed one?
Ooh, and he looks like that guy. Like, they have to be, like, just like the guy from last week has to be D-Ray. They have to be. I can never see your phone when you do that. It just looks white and like cloudy. It's just like a glare. And you look so sure that, yes, you can see this. This is some HD bullshit. You're like this. I'm like, mm-hmm. You're just like this. This cutting edge technology. Like, you may as well just be holding up a piece of typing paper. Yeah, so Chet, Colin Hanks is the normal one. He's the actor. Chet Hanks has to be the embarrassment. I was so sure that Chet had to be from like a previous marriage, but he must be from the same woman that he's been with. Yeah, I know that Tom Hanks is embarrassed by him. I think he has a black baby mama. He frequently speaks in, I don't know if you could even call it patois. He thinks he's one of those people that feels like he's earned the right. Just pull up any article or think piece. He's such an embarrassment. And if he ever turns up dead, Tom Hanks had him killed. And I really don't think that anyone would fault him for it.
I don't understand how you can name a human something like Chet. It sounds like something you like a you know how there's a knit on your shirt? Well, next to the knit there may be a Chet.
I feel like a Chet is the thing that comes out of your nose when it's been like something is in there and you finally like, and you like get it out. It's not quite snot and it's not quite a booger, but it's like, what is this? And like you want to put it under like a microscope. That's a Chet. And I wouldn't be surprised if they did not name him Chet.
Either way, it's something that does not belong. I mean, the Chet that you described does not belong in your nose. The Chet that I described does not belong on my sleeve. It's something that I want to expel or get rid of.
And I think that that's how they feel about him, because the Chet that we are speaking about does not belong in that family.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad we've come to that conclusion. So Chet was babysat, or Chet, white boy from Tribeca was babysat by our Miss Sylvia. We go to the obituary at this service and we learn all these amazing things about this woman's history. The fact that she danced with Alvin Ailey, her contributions to the college she attended, her awareness of Trinidadian and Tobagan culture with is it Julia Edwards, the name of the lady who created the limbo?
Yes.
Learning about that bit of Black history, I gotta say I was scarred a bit.
Or are you talking about the origins of the limbo?
The origins of the limbo, because so the first time I watched it back, and that character Kyle, let's call him Kyle, Sebastian's father, when he said it, I was just like, okay, I'll make a note to Google it. But then when she mentions Julia Edwards at the funeral as well, so there's a double reference to that in this episode. I'm like, everything is fucking slavery. Yes. Everything.
Yeah, like we used to, or at least I used to say that half jokingly, but it's like, no, it really is. It really, really is. And then this new, I mean, personally for me, I shouldn't say new, but kind of is like woke, like, wow, like making all of the connections just as an adult, like really seeing things, it truly is. And taking a step beyond just slavery, but the literal white supremacy, the decisions that were made to institute, we are going to be the best. And that quote that I can never remember, but that we recently discussed.
Yeah.
That quote about basically, we the best music, and we're going to make sure that like all of our descendants know that they are the best, even though we are not. We're just going to know how to like usurp everything. Like it literally is infused into every single thing. It truly is in everything. I'm like, even the fucking dance, it's in the most innocuous thing.
And see, and just like so many other aspects of Black culture, with its roots and foundations in slavery, like fried chicken is a delicacy. Why did Black people cook it? Because it was the one farm animal they were allowed to keep and breed. It was like the cheapest, least valuable. Yeah. And so they cooked a food that all of us love. I don't care who you are, where you are in the world.
You like chicken.
You like fried chicken specifically, you know? So yeah, just talk about turning a bad thing into good. That dance, it was celebrated. It used to be practiced at wakes. So when the minister or whoever was giving the obituary, when he was saying, well, she was a woman of tradition who broke them, that's what Julia Edwards did, because the tradition was to do the dance at the wakes in remembrance of those going into the hull of the ship, you know.
Oh, that's and so then, heartbreaking.
Yeah, and at the bar actually used to raise. The bar used to raise as a sign of saying, we're getting closer to heaven. We're getting closer to death. We're getting closer to freedom. Right? She reversed it. And it was like, how low can you go? Pretty much like laughing in the face of all of that, turning it into a positive, you know. And God, we got to do that with everything. We got to figure out some way to turn everything.
It's exhausting.
Yeah, it's such a huge, enormous burden, and we're still carrying it. And I mean, I wrote a poem. The poem that I wrote for today, like I wrote it after watching this episode last night, and I'm just like, we can never forget that we come from survivors who literally make ways out of no ways to live, like who cling tenaciously to life and try to figure out a way to find something life affirming in everything, no matter how horrible. That's survival. That's thriving in spite of, and I will never be ashamed of that. In fact, that should be such a main point of pride for all of us. We didn't come from people who were just willing to lay down and die, you know?
Right.
But yeah, just facing so much. So at this point, I guess the dancers come up and they start dancing, and then no, before that, they mentioned Princess Lee. Wait, what? So it was Princess Lee. What were the other names of the folks? Her kids.
Wait, which folks? Her children.
Her children. It's like Princess Lee, Edgar Lee, Rose Lee, Khadijah Lee. All of their middle names were Lee.
Did they ever say why? It was Lee. No, I just remember thinking, wait a minute, we just talked about.
Yeah, because the same reason
Nikki's family.
My daddy's and his siblings all had the middle name Lee. It's a Black thing.
Yeah.
So but then, crazy. But then also, you know, it could also be a way to stay connected to whoever was lost when people were sold off, because they would, like, after emancipation, in order to try to find people, they would name themselves and their children a certain way so that they would always have that connection. So it could be that Lee is a part of that. We were all together at one time on the Lee farm, or, you know.
It's just, Lee. That just makes me think about, Robert E. Lee. Every time I hear Lee, I think Robert E. Lee.
Yeah, but I mean, how do you think I felt? My dad's name is Robert Lee. It's
Yeah,
literally
like you can't
Robert
think
Lee.
anything. It's like literally there is an empty pedestal that folks are still mad about, and you can't help but call it like it's Lee Circle. Like people are like every time another carjacking happens, people say, "Yeah, but you spent all the money." So like people are like, "Well, you spent all the money on the statue, so that's why there's crime, statue removal." All right, dude. I kept trying to pause it to get like a better look at the slideshow they had going during the funeral.
Oh yeah, because some of
Yeah, a
those
lot of
pictures,
pictures. Yeah.
yeah.
So I'm like, okay, these are real pictures. Like this is a real person. Who is this? She also looked extremely familiar.
Yeah, she did. But okay, so the dancers come up and Princess Lee gets up and says, "Stop this bacchanal." I love when they say bacchanal.
Yeah, that pretty much happened today too, in real life.
Yeah.
Except it was a little more scary.
So for me, that's where I was just like, okay, she's gonna say what needs to be said.
Yep.
This woman spent her life raising somebody else's kids. And I thought about the help, you know, I thought about such a fun age.
Yep.
The second time I referenced it. And just I also thought about Imitation of Life. Remember that movie?
Mm-hmm, yes.
So, and we've seen this story so many times, and maybe we don't always relate it to the Caribbean population, you know, who is us and we are them, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yes, my great grandmother was the help. Anyway, that's what I was thinking about. She worked for a family on the North Shore, because maybe my grandmother will one day tell me about it, because I think that's where mom was like, well, your grandmother's not ready to tell our actual, like my cousin or whoever, some white folks somewhere, like my grandmother's, we're gonna have to erase this, real daddy, who is somebody. And I've always told that it probably wasn't a consensual type thing, but now I'm hearing like different, that maybe it was. But she was like living, like she couldn't raise her own kid. My grandmother was raised by her grandmother, because her mom was across the lake taking care of these white folks. And my mom recently told me that she finally told her like who the family is, like the names. And like, and they're here. I was like, oh, really? Well, Mom, tell me. Oh, no, she. And I'm like, well, why did you tell me? I'm the wrong child. Like, I'm the one that's like, we must record the family. It's like, why did you tell me that? Because you want me to go to her. You want me to be the one to get knocked upside the head. You know what you're doing. I'm a mother now. I know you know what you're doing. You knew which child. You have 5 of us. you knew which one. No, she's not comfortable. I mean, I'm not comfortable saying it. Just like, you told the wrong one. You don't tell me or Farron. We're the two that want to write a book. You don't tell us. Anyway, so yeah, my grandmother was like, yeah, my mom was wonderful, but she didn't. She missed out on a lot with her mother. She knows she loved her, but she didn't raise her. That's horrible.
It is horrible. And it is horrible. The white folks sitting there, I just didn't get a sense that they understood their complicity in it.
No.
Like, why aren't you taking care of your own fucking kids? Why do you need help taking care of your own fucking kids?
Because it's something that is available. I think that's what angered me the most about them. They didn't even have that sheepish, like, you know how some white people are like, oh my God, I know I'm so terrible. Like they know, they're at least a little bit ashamed. And like, maybe you'll keep doing it, but you're kind of ashamed. Especially the woman, they seem to just kind of be like, you know, it's a service that's there. It's kind of like, you're getting upset with me for like buying shoes. Like that's a service that is available to me. Like they had that, they were uncomfortable. You could tell that they understood what she was saying.
No, it's clear that they understood what
Like
she's
they
saying, because she
understood, but it was
goes
just
back
kind of
and
like,
relates it back to her. Like everything about what the parents did was, their moves were always based primarily on themselves first, and everything else was a second and third consideration, even their own child. You know, I I'm just like, how does that happen? How does that happen?
they whiten. We gotta remember who we're talking about. The Wahite people. Kev on stage, credit. They are Wahite people. They whiten. It's just like, this is what we do. Like you said it yourself. That little boy is like an accessory to them, or like a pet. And it's like, the woman, her daughter was like, yeah, she was doing all this for those people, but she didn't raise us. And it was just like, awkward. And it's like, yeah, she's talking about you.
Yeah.
But it
And
didn't
like I
seem
said,
to like
no, it did.
make them
It
feel.
affected the woman. I think it just ran off of the man's back, but it affected Bonwin, or whatever the hell her name is. It affected her because she didn't want her child to feel that way about her, you know, and she understands her absence in her child's life. She understands it,
Mm,
you
yeah,
know.
I
I'm
guess.
I'm just like, how can you accept it? Why should that be the norm? And you're concerned about it. What are you going to do about it? They couldn't even show up to a fucking family photo shoot. And then the dad was just like, oh, he's fine. We know our son, but you don't. Like, even in church, you're surprised at him praying along, like doing the call and response along with the other parishioners. You had no idea the food your
That
son
he's
likes to
going to church.
eat.
Yeah, I would have been like, okay, so let's say that you are surprised. So you didn't know. What I thought was weird was, so if I was surprised, if Zoe is participating in a call and response, that means that she really knows. At no point do they lean over and they're like, how do you know this? Like, they're surprised, but not enough to like investigate. That's your child. Like, they don't
Yeah, I
take
would
any
have
sort of
asked,
like
like,
ownership.
how
I'm
do
not
you
saying
feel about
storm
this?
out,
Do
but
you
like,
like it? Like
yeah,
later on, have a talk like, hey, what's going on when you do this? Tell me about it. Like, why do you
they're
like doing
they're
it?
they're too hands off. And so, because a real parent, like, let's say that you did kind of fall down on the job a little bit, and it's like, whoa, hey, I've been too involved in like trying to climb the corporate ladder, and apparently you are spending a lot of time at the church. Not saying that's good or bad, but obviously there's some things that are getting by me. And a normal parent or an involved parent is like, let's talk about this. Like, you're not hands off.
Yeah.
You're gonna get in there. You're gonna, I mean, Sylvia's dead now, but so what's going on? Let's go out in the foyer. Let's go on the sidewalk. How do you know this? They're just kind of like, what's he talking about? But that's the attitude that they've had towards him since the beginning. Like, why is it still in the living room? Shouldn't it still be at school? Like, change. They did not have normal parental responses ever. And
No.
who misses picture day and then has an attitude when the teacher has something to say about it?
It's like, oh, we couldn't have been the only parents.
You
But
were.
they were. They were. And yeah, that his assumption that he knows his son. We are protecting him. We were there for him in this moment. What?
They're clueless. And if you do miss picture day, you are going to be rightfully and righteously like, oh my God, are there retakes? Oh my God, I feel terrible. Whether you are performing that shit or not, you were supposed to be like, you prostrate yourself, because that teacher's like, noted. Like, let me start a file.
All right, so Princess Lee gets up and shows out and starts hitting the casket. Like, and then all hell breaks loose. That's a little extreme, but again, my aunt has attempted to climb into the casket. An aunt on both sides of the family There's been really bad singing at Black funerals. There's been being ushered out. There's been it hasn't been for a long time where I've seen an argument, but it happens, and it's falling out. There's falling out and whatnot. All of that.
There's always somebody telling some business that, you know, people are like, this ain't the
business,
time, nor the
place. I mean, but the person is literally dead. So especially if it's if it's pertaining to them, like this would be the time and the place actually.
When is there going to be another time?
It's not.
It's like, I would beg to differ. Shut up, Clarence. Actually.
Like somebody needed to say something, we were all thinking it, you know. And yeah, we all have those moments. The white folks were most impressed that she was related to the football player.
Yes. That's what he got from that. Like, wait, we're sitting next to somebody that's related to Oswald. Was it like Oswald Jones or something?
Our nanny's related to Oswald Jones or whatever. Yeah.
Which crazy. Again, that's connected with like high economic status or just like fame or like, you know, something that's like the one thing that will have you gain in respect from white people. We've mentioned that too. Like Black people are at this one level, but they can cross over and attain some sort of respect or some sort of like be on some sort of level playing field. Usually if you can sing, if you can catch or throw a ball or tackle people or like you just get, it's like, ooh, like you have value. And usually it is attached to how well you can entertain. And that's just what that made me think about. It reminds me of something that my sister used to say. She went to a very popular college here. And she's just like, it's just crazy how you see some of these people. They go crazy for like whoever the current, you know, flavor of the semester is that's like bringing in all this money for this college. And she's saying people like, you know, cheering and going crazy. And like you hear them like talk about this person on and off the field and, you know, how great they are and their favorite thing, you know, how humble the person is. And it's like this same person was out of this particular uniform and just like in regular street clothes and you didn't know who they were, you know, you wouldn't be talking like that about them. Or if that same person, if you saw them just in their natural, just whatever, you don't know that person. I bet they probably hold views that, you know, you would find unsavory or unflattering. It's infuriating, you know, that whole humble thing, like what they see as humble. You know what I did notice though? I should have been surprised, but they said the thing. I was like, oh, the diaspora. Except America.
No, I know my family did not the exact but
is a.
Yeah. I think it's a close relative. Like or you know, like or it's just it's the same thing.
God, I love it. Wow, that is amazing. It's like, yeah, we do need to like talk.
Yeah, we need to talk because
I'm sure it's happening. It's just not happening on a wide enough on a broad enough. Okay, no, this is tangent territory. Okay,
I just think, well, I can bring it back. I just think that was the reasoning for this show. This particular episode, the fact that it took place in New York, Atlanta is so closely related to New York because there's so many New York transplants here. And, you know, next time you hear, yes, a lot of people, there's so many New Yorkers here that it's kind of changing the feel of certain parts of Atlanta. It has a very New York mode.
Is it because it's cheaper? Is it because there's like, it's metropolitan, but you don't have to sell parts of your body in order to live there?
Oh no, like some of the, I bar hopped in New York and bar hopping here at certain places, same prices. sometimes a little bit more expensive. There's a lot of money in Atlanta. And
I'm just talking about like how, like I thought like cost of living in Atlanta was on the whole cheaper.
Inside of the city proper, it's very expensive to live in Atlanta. The gentrification, the Beltline has had a lot to do with it. You know, along the Beltline, it's prime real estate. If you can get an apartment there, it's not going to be big, but you're going to be right in the middle of everything, and you don't necessarily need to get a car to do things. If you work in that area, and then like I hung out there a couple of days ago. The drinks were ridiculously overpriced. I ordered a margarita, the large one. I thought they were going to bring me one of them like swimming pool cups like they do up in Buford Highway, so I could just take a nice little dive into that motherfucker, like just have one drink for the whole night. But I ended up having to get two, because that I did have a large, $17. Yeah, but that's like standard New York drink prices.
I need a sugar daddy for that kind of drink.
Well, no comment. No comment.
Mama don't do that kind of drinking on her own. No.
I was in good company, but yeah, it was very much a New York vibe, you know. And a lot of New York transplants live here, and the North is not any different from what goes on in the South. As you can see, they're in the North, but they're still having nannies, mammies, they were called in the South at one point. You know, there is a large Caribbean population in New York, of course. There's also a significant Caribbean population here in Atlanta. You know, and then the other thing about the Atlanta experience is that a lot of times we will segregate ourselves in terms of where we're from as well. So the Nigerians hang tough with the Nigerians, the Ghanaians hang tough with the Ghanaians, the Sierra Leoneans hang tough with them. You know, Black Americans, if you're from New York, you only hang with New Yorkers, you know, in a certain part of town and all of that. We're still stratifying ourselves. But when we get together and share our experiences, it's such a splendid thing, you know. So I appreciated this episode for that. You know, just like I appreciated the other episode. Yes, let's talk to each other. You know, let's take the time to learn the things about the other members of the diaspora, so we can all understand what's happening to all of us, and be able to do something about it. But then again, when brothers and sisters get together and talk, though, it does often end up like what happened at the funeral. Just how many groups you've been in on Facebook where like the intentions are good, but these motherfuckers are driving me.
But we need to be able to get through that too, which is why I did like when you know, so like the melee is happening, and then somebody says, which this irritated me so bad because it reminded me of what some people said after Will slapped the shit out of Chris Rock, and it was like, "You're scaring the white people away," or "You're scaring the white people," and then it stopped. And I was like, "Why everybody was worried about, you know, how white people feel?" And then, you know, they stopped. And Sebastian, like, you know, he had this look like, I ain't scared. But just like, that's my ride. and then the guy was like, "Hey, you know, we're just sad." You know, and I was like,
how we're sad.
Yeah. And I was like, yeah. I mean, y'all could tone it down a little bit, because I probably would have left too. Tone it down.
Yeah, but you know what? And ain't nobody gonna leave because the food is about to be on and popping. Like, yeah, it's gonna be made very well.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, but it's just like I don't talk about that kind of foolishness stuff. But I get out of there. I appreciated what he said. This is just us being sad, and they kind of just looked. And I think we're done with the funeral at that point. I think the scene just ends there. And then we go back to the house. And something that we kind of haven't mentioned, a thing that's happening throughout the episode is that they keep getting this package left at the door. And it's like this crazy knocking. And then they answer and there's nobody there, right? And so the first time he gets back to the, like, he's getting rid of the package and it keeps coming back. So by the time they go to the funeral, he's received it twice, I believe.
Why didn't he take it to give to the family? Since it was addressed to Sylvia.
I don't know, because he's stupid. And they've already shown, well, I don't know. I guess he just didn't care, because like the first time I think he said he gave it to, I think he like took it downstairs or something, because he said something about, well, the first time he said he did return to sender. So I think they left it with their doorman. Because I believe he even said something like, I asked the doorman like if he saw who left it, and he said no. So I think he just kept like leaving it back with the doorman. And maybe, and I don't know, I could be guessing, but I know that they had put all of her belongings together and gave it to Khadijah. So maybe the second time, maybe they just put it in with the stuff that they had for Khadijah, because it comes back once they get back from the funeral. So, but I don't know. I didn't see them do that. I just know that before they went to the funeral, they received it twice. And he's just kind of like, okay,
they
weird.
received it a total of 3 times.
Right. And then so the third time was once they get back home. Now once they get back home, I don't remember any specific thing, but by the time the funeral is over, I believe it's a commercial break. We're back home.
They're riding back home and he's singing the Sweet TNT song.
Yes, and they're just kind of like looking. Did they discuss anything on the ride home?
No, he was just singing the song and saying how catchy it is. Trini to the bone.
Yes. It is a catchy little song.
Then he's in bed. They talk about Sebastian wanting to play the steel pan like Uncle Samuel. There is an actual musician who's known for the steel band. His name is Samuel Dubois. I'll post the link in the show notes. Excellent.
Doesn't he bring up the limbo thing?
He does bring up the limbo thing.
Okay.
And he starts to talk about how it's related to slavery. I love that there's that tidbit for people to go like nibble on.
Yeah, because she's like, doesn't she kind of just like, doesn't she kind of cut him off? Because that's why he doesn't finish his sentence.
She cuts him off because she starts talking about like the way that woman screamed. She was beating the casket. Like, I don't want my son to say that about me.
But it's like, I don't know. God, I hated her. I just hated her so much. He's talking and he says, for some reason, my document isn't coming up because I wrote down what he said. He's talking to Sylvia. And he's like, I like it when you rub my back or something like that. Because he mentioned that earlier, didn't he? Like about like how Sylvia.
I think that was earlier in the episode when he said that Sylvia comes and sits with me when I feel afraid, and I feel afraid because he appeared from around the corner and she jumped at the sight of her kid. She was she was talking to him. Now, a cold, small hand reaching out in the darkness when you're asleep, that's some scary shit. I've experienced that. I've avoided yelling so as not to scare my child, because then I remember I'm a mom and
but they be doing that though. They just appear.
Yeah, they do appear, but I'm not gonna jump and be like, yo, where'd you come from? I'm not gonna be like, ah.
Okay, yeah, so she jumps, but I could have sworn that there was a scene, stupid document isn't coming up. I could have sworn that there was a scene where he's saying, I like it when you rub my back, and there's nobody there.
No, okay. She was there when he said, I like it when you rub, what's it?
Okay.
You would have to pull it up. But I remember her being there when he was like, rub my back. Sylvia does it in a circle, you know, and then she starts singing about the beluga whale. And I just like, it's one of those things where you wonder if it's intentional. Like, it just so happens to be a song about a big white whale. Let me look at the symbolism of a white whale.
Yeah. But Baby Beluga is like it's like, oh, she's just singing this. Like, it is a pretty popular kids song, but it's like, of course you're singing Baby Beluga.
The white whale is
Because it's
ultimately
basic.
a metaphor because the white whale is associated with Moby Dick, right? I know about that. It's a
Mm-hmm.
metaphor, like a symbol. It has to do with an object representing an idea. The white whale is frequently used as a metaphor for an obsession, usually in the sense of a goal that you chase but are unlikely to attain. There's, I'm sorry, this is a television show. We both know, as story writers, nothing is left to chance, and there's
Yes.
nothing that's so everything has a meaning, everything has a purpose in a script. Whales are associated with compassion and solitude and knowledge of both life and death. They are also associated with unbridled creativity. The exhalation through the blowhole symbolizes the freeing of one's own creative energies. So that's whale symbolism.
Damn. Baby beluga deep.
Okay. Yeah, that the way the knocking, it's just like
it's really, really hard. It unnerves me. Like it irritates me. Because it's like, oh my God, but it's unnerving too. Because it feels like it's super late at night. And so it's kind of like, okay, I wouldn't be rushing to that door, but I would also be like wanting to rush to the door, like knocking on my fucking door like that. What is wrong with you, whoever this is?
Non-stop. It's like you want your knuckles broken.
yeah. You're trying to also break them on my door. And then I have here that it's an insistent knock. It's the same package again. He opens it and then it cuts to no, and then it shows him opening the package, Sylvia and Sebastian at picture day. And then he's singing, and then it cuts to Sebastian and he's singing Trini to the bone. Now I have on here that she's singing it to him because the way that he's lying in the bed singing it and he's like smiling as if this is, it's my opinion. He's smiling as if like, oh yeah, like this is happening like it always does. Like it's, he just looks happy. Like she's there singing it to him, which I'm kind of giving away like one of my elements, but he just seems like he's at peace. He could just be thinking about her, but the way that it just seemed to be, like the way it was shot was almost like, okay, his dad is finally opening the package. So like he let her in, like she's been trying to get back in, like she just like repeatedly had just been trying to come banging on that door. I don't get the sense to Sylvia that she's a shrinking violet in any way. No, and anything that we know about spirits is that like you have to let them in.
So see, what I noticed most was her face in those photos because she was in several different poses, and it's almost as if she was taunting him, like, this is my baby now.
Yep.
I just think about, you took my babies from me, I'm taking your children now.
And I think that that's what she was doing. Like when they were like, oh, she took care of so many children, throughout this area. It's at the expense of her own kids. And one of the children especially has taken that really hard. Yeah. And that's not a good thing. But I noticed that too. Her pose was just kind of like, and what? Like, yeah. Like, it feels sad when you hear her story because it's like, oh, wow, like, she's a nanny and she did all these things. And yes, it is a noble profession, but she didn't look like she was, woe is me. No. I'm a nanny. She just looked like
she was leading a very just, what's the word? She was leading a very light-filled, holistic life, just a pillar of her community, contributing, just leaving spaces better. She was obviously a very influential person.
Extremely, because culturally, Sebastian is Black as hell.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, he is super Black. Like, that boy's not gonna be able to eat with his family ever. Like, if Sebastian had been in Ern's first dream, he would have been in that house with those two lesbians. Like, what is this food? Like
oh no, yeah, he would have been all right. he would have been talking to them with his face too. Like
they would have been like, wait, what? Like you can hear us?
Like he can understand us.
That would have been a funny scene if the camera had been like them talking and then him being like, I know, right? It would have been like, wait, hold up, what, motherfucker? Like, wait, like, how are you in here? It's like a needle scratch. Like, wait, what are you doing in here?
Yeah.
You know, and then he would have had some training shit for them and he'd be like, what did he just say? Like, what are you? What are you? They would have looked at him like the white people were looking at Chet Hanks at the funeral.
But I mean, no, that fool got up and said world star.
Yeah, that's what we were missing. Yes. And that's how I also know that it's Chet Hanks, because is there something with him doing that too? But that was just kind of like, that's the kind of dude he is too. Like, plus Atlanta has done that before. Was that in the first season? Was something happening to somebody with
first
world
episode,
star?
World Star. Girl, let's go through the elements. What was your That's So Atlanta?
I didn't have a That's So Atlanta. You did.
Okay. Yeah. The Caribbean presence is large in Atlanta. I will post links to data on that. Just as it is large in New York. And there's a lot of New York transplants. A couple that I know. Winston Patrice, if you're watching, hey, how you doing? Transplants from New York, but he's also of Caribbean descent.
What about there's no Dariusism. Mystical element. So there were mystical elements throughout the episode, I believe, but the one that stands out to me is a constant attempt to deliver what we find out later are the school pictures.
Yeah, similar, the incessant knocking, because that's not, humans don't knock like that, not humans who want to stay alive. You come knocking on my door like that, you mess around, I'm from V-Town, you catch one of those beat downs.
SGR moment, what was yours?
Oh, when Princess went off at the funeral.
Yes.
Because what she was saying was the truth, but like, yeah, I think that's what hurts the most. Is I know she loved her mom, but God, to have had her in her life, but it's nothing that any of them could have helped, you know.
It's always interesting that when you have multiples of kids, like, you know, like more than 2 kids, the one that always seems to have the most smoke for you is always either the most like you in personality or like looks the most like you, because out of all her kids, she's the one, like from those old pictures of Sylvia, that looks the most like her. She looked the most like her mom in those pictures. It makes me wonder, like, it seems like that would be the one that she probably bumped heads with the most. But yeah, like what she was saying was exactly right. That shit got real was like a real shit got real, because the shit that she was saying was totally real. So I just thought that I put that out there. My SGR moment was because I believe that this is what was happening, was Invisible Sylvia singing that song to Sebastian, because I think she was sitting her dead ass right in that room singing to Sebastian. Like, I'm never leaving this house, and whatever nanny they get in there, she's gonna hump the fuck out of her, because it's what I tell Lance that I would do if I ever die and he moves on. I will be in the house turning shit upside down and wreaking havoc, and I will appear only to Zoe to give her instructions on what to do with her to her new mommy. We've already had this talk. You know what's gonna happen.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I mean, you understand the social consequences, the implications of that. Zoe's the one that talks to spirits, the spirit of her dead mother. Like, that's not a good rep to have.
Why?
Thank you for watching. Rappin' Atlanta is recorded and produced by Nita Charisse and Nikki Ebo. Our theme music is Joy Clark's Galaxy Groove, performed by Joy Clark. Discover more about this talented artist at joyclarkmusic.com. Rappin' Atlanta's artwork is created by Prime Vice Studios. Learn more about this intellectual property development agency at primevice.com. You can find us on your favorite podcast player as well as YouTube. Don't forget to rate, comment, subscribe, and follow Rappin' Atlanta on Twitter and Instagram at Rappin' Atlanta.